Let me grab a quick call. Terry, Salem, Oregon. Great to have you, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Rush. I hope you're doing just as well.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to get your take on what the Dems are saying about the SALT effect that is going to be in the new tax plan that's out there. I'm coming across some items where they're complaining about how the wealthy are actually going to be disenfranchised with the new tax plan.
Well, nobody's going to lose their vote over the tax plan. What Democrats are saying that the wealthy are going to be disenfranchised?
Well, I saw something yesterday where Dianne Feinstein was complaining about the wealthy. 6 counties in California had an effect on the home costs, where you're not going to be able to deduct,
that's the home mortgage. That's the home mortgage. Yeah. I got that. This is fascinating. But you said the state local taxes problem. That's also got people like DiFi defending the wealthy. Democrats defending the wealthy over tax effects on the state local taxes not being deductible. I got to take a break, though. Hang on. I'll explain the mortgage business to you. What's got them so upset? State local taxes known as SALT. I heard the caller mention it. Told him it was ironic. Dianne Feinstein defending the wealthy against tax increases in the Trump tax reform bill. Anyway, I'll explain that, and what he was really asking about was Dianne Feinstein complaining about mortgage deductibility in the new tax bill. Sit tight, folks. We have much more. We'll get right back at it in a moment. Hang on, let me check something here just a second before we get going here. Yeah, not surprised. Nothing else is going right today. Why should that? Okay, greetings and welcome back. Great to have you. Rush Limbaugh here at 800-282-2882 and the email address lrushbaugh@eibnet.us. So the last caller, he didn't mean that Dianne Feinstein was worried that wealthy people going to lose their vote because of the tax cut bill. I was being literal in the interpretation of the definition of the word disenfranchised. What he meant was cast aside, harmed, or left out. And they're not being left out. Here are the two things that are up for discussion here. The first thing, SALT. When I Snerdley puts a little couple of sentences up on the screen to give me a summary of what callers want to say. And on that first caller, said he wanted to talk SALT. I'm so old. I said, what do we got a guy on the phone who wants to talk strategic arms limitations treaty with the Soviets? I thought, what in the world do we got a call up here about that? And then I did a quick in my head calculation. No, state and local taxes. I haven't seen the abbreviation in anything I've read about state and local taxes, but apparently it's popular out there. So I figured out that's what he wanted to talk about. And he said on social media, everybody's upset over what Dianne Feinstein posted, which is this. The Republican tax bill caps the mortgage interest deduction at $750,000 for new mortgages. She wasn't talking about SALT, at least in this tweet. She was concerned about the new procedures on mortgage interest deduction. So again, the Republican tax bill caps the mortgage interest deduction at $750,000 for new mortgages. In California, 7 counties have average home prices that are more than $750,000. Alameda, Marin, Orange, San Francisco, San Mateo, Santa Clara, and Santa Cruz counties. And so she's very concerned that this isn't going to be helpful to anybody. $750,000 mortgage for new mortgages, and that's the cap. And her point is that's the cap. That's the floor for people in these 7 counties. She's saying this isn't anything. This isn't going to help anybody. That's nothing. So on the one hand, what do we have here? On the one hand, the Democrats scream at Republicans for constantly helping the wealthy. Do we not? And by the way, it's the same thing on salt, state and local taxes. Same exact thing. They scream at Republicans. Republicans, this tax bill has been said to be a giveaway to the rich, a sop to the rich. Once again, the Republicans are helping their rich friends. And then the Democrats turn right around and complain when the rich do not get a tax break. It's the most amazing thing to watch. Because on the one hand, the Democrats scream at Republicans for helping the evil, wealthy, rich taxpayers. And on the other hand, they scream at Republicans for taking away the deductions of the evil, rich, and wealthy. I have a project for Di-Fi. Why don't you try explaining the state income tax deductions in your next tweet? So here's how that works. Let's see, what's the state and local taxes are being capped at $10,000, meaning you can deduct up to $10,000 of your state and local taxes. Now, in Manhattan, where the rich leftists live, the average deduction for state and local taxes is over $60,000. The average. Now, I realize a bunch of wealthy leftists are moving that average up. But in Manhattan, not the 5 boroughs, Manhattan alone, the average deduction is over $60,000 state and local taxes. But only 10,000 of that can now be deductible. In California, it's close to that, but not quite as high. So what this results in a big tax increase. And it's on the wealthy. Not only on the wealthy, because there are some non-rich, non-wealthy people, because of the California, New York tax systems, who are paying exorbitant state income taxes, and they're only going to be able to deduct 10,000 of that now. Now, there's a trace. Folks, this is what happens. I'm blue in the face. This is what happens when they keep talking about having to pay for it. When you have a tax cut on one hand, and over here, well, we have to pay for it. I'm telling you, when it's over, you don't have a tax cut. If the government has X much money, when they start talking tax cuts, and then after the tax cut policy is done and implemented, and if the government has the same amount of money, there has not been a tax cut. Individuals may see a smaller tax bill, but others are going to be paying more to make up for it. So when they say, yeah, we're going to reduce the rates from 15 to 10 and 17 to 12 or whatever it is, they next say, but we have to find a way to pay for that. So then they come up with, we will limit deductibility for state and local taxes. Right. Then everybody complains about that. Okay. So then they find other ways to pay for it. So they start compromising. Okay. We'll let you deduct the first 10,000 of your state and local taxes. Or we will limit the mortgage interest deduction to $750,000 on the first home. But you go buy in that condo down in St. Kitts, or you go buy a little $25 million weekend place in the Hamptons, you're on your own, pal. No mortgage deduction for the second home. Thus, they pay for it. This is the trade-off for lower rates. It's exactly what happened in 1986. Exactly. Top marginal rate was 50%, took it down to 28%, but a lot of deductions went bye-bye. The problem with this is that the rates are eventually going to come back up. The next time the Democrats in the White House, the rates are going to come back up. You know the first rate the Democrats are going to raise when they retake the White House, whenever that is? The corporate rate. The corporate rate, what's it come? It's a new corporate rate, 21% now. It's 35. It's going to be 21% in this bill. And Bernie Sanders and the rest of the left, they're promising everybody. They're promising everybody on social media. They're promising their left constituents, don't worry. When we get the White House back, that corporate rate is the first thing going back up. But then whose rates go back? Whose rates do they increase? The wealthy. The wealthy, which will have a 37% rate beginning in February, or whenever they get the new tables done, the Democrats get back in, that rate will go back up. But what's going to happen is a lot of deductions are gone once the rates go back up. And will the state and local tax deduction ever come back in toto? I ask you, what are the odds that it's going to come back in toto? What about the home mortgage interest deduction? Will it come back as it is today? The odds are no. Washington does not give up money, folks. Then this tax reform bill, look, I don't want to be misunderstood. This is going to be a good economic stimulus. The corporate rate alone is going to do that. But also reducing a top marginal rate from 39.6 to 37 is also hugely stimulative of the economy, as are all the other rates. But on this state and local tax business, I see this in a number of different ways. I'm a purist on taxes. I want to keep all of my money and give Washington what I think they need. That's where I come from. I want all of mine. It is mine. I earned it. They did not build it. They did not fund this. They had nothing to do with it. I want to keep it all. But I know that's impractical. That's never going to be the way it is. Taxes are never going to be voluntary. So then you start comparing. Okay, what would I accept? I want the vast majority of what is earned to be kept. I don't buy any of this notion from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. That's right out of the Communist Manifesto, and I don't want to be part of it. Zilch, zero, nada. But Washington thinks all money is theirs. And that what you end up with is via their policy and their good graces and so forth. I think it's just the exact opposite. Now, the state and local tax deduction, this has been a huge benefit to big-time blue states, highly populated, highly taxed blue states. It's California, it's Illinois, Connecticut, New York. Because of wealthy people in these states being able to deduct what they pay in state and local taxes, these states have gotten away with charging exorbitant taxes. 12%, 14% tax rate, New York, California. Give me a break on top of whatever the federal rate is. A lot of people who are by no means wealthy are paying over 50% total, well over it, when you factor FICA and the Medicare tax, state and local taxes, all the other user fees tossed and thrown in there, the taxes on your phone bill or whatever the hell else, state and local taxes, federal. People are well over 50%. That is immoral, in my view. It is immoral for a state, be it the federal government or the state, in combination to take over half of what someone earns. And I don't care how much they earn. It's not theirs. And then we get to hear that the more they make, the more the government's entitled to it. The more they make, the more the government's entitled, because the more they make, the less they need it. Sorry, that's none of their business. So if you eliminate the deductibility of state and local taxes, what do you expose? You expose these exorbitantly high state income tax rates. And for those of you who live in California, New York, Illinois, Connecticut, high tax states, and you're livid at this tax bill because you don't get to deduct your state and local taxes anymore, you need to redirect your anger at your state governments because they are ripping you off. California is ripping you off to the tune of 10 to 12 to 14%. What are you getting for it? A governor that tells you forest fires that destroy property are now the new norm because of climate change. That's what you're getting, along with all the other insanity and malaise that makes up the California economy. You talk about have and have not. It is California. If you're on one of the coasts, if you're on the coast in California, you're okay. You go 5 miles inland and you might as well be in a slum in many parts of that state. And what this is exposing is the exorbitantly high personal income tax rates these states have gotten away with charging, because the federal government has allowed those taxes to be deducted from the federal return. With that ending up to a maximum of $10,000, it's going to focus attention on the state tax rates, which are the next things that need to come down. Taxes are too high everywhere. Even in no income tax states, they have other ways of generating revenue. Property taxes in Florida are through the roof. You wouldn't believe it. They have to have a way to compensate for no state income tax. All governments need as much money as they can get. About those forest fires, one other quick observation about this. You may be shocked to learn that a state like Georgia is more densely forested than California. I'm not talking about total acreage. I'm talking about forestation per acre. Here's the difference. In Georgia, where they have much more forestation as a percentage of the state than in California, do you ever hear about these fires? Very rarely. Do you ever see scenes from Georgia or other southeastern states fly over some of these states? You can't even see the roads beneath them. The forests are so thick, including in upstate New York, it's incredible. You wonder how whatever's below the forest ever gets any sunlight. It's thick as hell. You know what the difference is? In Georgia and a lot of places in the Southeast, most of that is privately owned. In what? No, it's not rainfall. It's private ownership versus state ownership. In California, the state owns it, and if you've got idiots thinking that is against nature to clear out dead wood, which is timber for fires, kindling, if you have wackos who think doing anything to prevent fires from spreading or growing or even starting is a violation of nature, well, then I'm sorry, you're cooking your own goose. But privately owned land, the people that own that land have a much more greater sense of worth and value. They protect it, they clear it, they take the stuff out of it that could cause a fire to spread if it starts. None of that happens in California because they're run by a bunch of left-wing lunatics. And so when these fires start out there, coupled with the Santa Ana winds when they happen, you got much of this forestation as literal kindling wood because they're not allowed to clear it out. It's considered a violation. In some of these western states, the leftists, the environmentalists, don't even want you putting out a fire because that's artificial. Fire starts, it's natural. What burns is natural. The more it burns, the better for the stupid climate change agenda that they've got. Then you couple that with a governor telling people that live there, sorry, new normal, can't do anything about it, climate change. People that vote for people like that deserve to be paying higher taxes. It's stupidity, if you ask me. So what is California thinking of doing to deal with this? Well, get this. Los Angeles Times, one option that could be considered by the California Assembly, the legislature, would be to redefine state and local taxes as charitable contributions, which remain fully deductible under the GOP tax proposals. And it says the idea is not as implausible as it seems. The IRS and federal courts have ruled that government entities can count as charities for the purpose of the charitable deduction, even when the donor receives a full state or local tax credit in return. So now your state and local taxes are going to be considered, they're thinking about this in California, considered as charitable contributions, which means you could deduct them, which in fact may not be far away from the truth. Your government as a charity.